the Supreme Court could have said long ago that partisan and political gerrymandering are unconstitutional, violate equal protection and the First Amendment. They didn't. In a very partisan, pro-GOP, pro-MAGA Supreme Court has said, oh, we've got nothing to do with this. It's a political question. Leave it up to the states. So these are the ground rules that have been established by the MAGA takeover of the federal government at every level.
Yes, the lost Marx brother there. Democrat radical extremist, America-hating Congressman Jamie Raskin laying waste to everything around him, as the Democrats always do. Yeah, it reminds me of Chuck Schumer threatening members of the Supreme Court, and then a gunman showed up at the home of U.S. Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh. And it's funny, nobody connected. It's only two dots. It's dot A and dot B. That's it. Here's Chuck Schumer threatening the Supreme Court, yelling in front of the Supreme Court, "You will reap the whirlwind." Then the gunman shows up, fortunately arrested, plotting to murder 3 Supreme Court justices, and none of it rubs off on the Democratic Party. I know, when you see a Democrat, you don't want to rub anything off of them either. Maybe get a fire hose or something. And a very good Monday to you, and welcome back once again. We continue to be at 888-630-9625. You might have detected I'm a little throaty. Got a little throaty thing going on today. Got a little scratchy throat. Got some sinusy stuff going on. I think I should take an aspirin. Maybe I should take an aspirin or something like that. But we are talking about the Democrats and their latest criminal fraud that they're perpetrating against the American people. There are a great many criminal frauds that they perpetrate, from Barack Obama and John Penitentiary Face Brennan and the FBI director James Comey and the game that they ran against the Trump camp and the disinformation operations they ran against the American people, tampering in our presidential election like we are the third world country that they are here to overthrow at the CIA. Pretty amazing stuff, I've got to say. Now, I want to get to the Texas redistricting the congressional seats in Texas, and they're very, very upset. It's true the redistricting normally takes place every 10 years after the census in the year 2000, 2010, 2020. Next one, in theory, would come along naturally in 2030 with the every 10-year, the once-a-decade census across the United States of America. And the Democrats don't let that bother them. They redistrict whenever they want, wherever they want. They'll redistrict Republican seats right out of existence in California, in Illinois. In fact, I was reading this morning out of Illinois how the Democrats couldn't be bigger hypocrites if they set out to be. You know, J.B. Pritzker, the didn't-earn-his-own-money billionaire from Illinois who bought the governor's mansion, and nobody's firebombed it. No Democrats have firebombed that governor's mansion. Maybe he's not Jewish enough or something. Democrats may get around to it. But the headline from Politico, this was kind of interesting. July 24th, a couple of weeks ago now, just barely. July 24th of 2025 in the left-wing Politico. The headline is Pritzker's gerrymander jab draws fire. And again, you got this Governor Pritzker thing where he's very upset about it. It's the end of democracy if Republicans want to redistrict in the state of Texas and if it doesn't accrue to the benefit of the Democrat Party.
We know that you are making great sacrifices to resist the power grab that's being perpetrated by Donald Trump, by Governor Abbott, and by Texas Republicans. We will not let power go unchecked. Yeah. Right. Or let your voices and their voices go unheard.
Yeah, let their voices, your voices unheard. Because elected state officials have fled the state of Texas because they're anti-democracy. They're a threat to democracy. They're a threat to the very idea of democracy worldwide. They should be banned in the United States. They should reconstitute themselves in Beijing or maybe in Wuhan. They should go to Wuhan. But here's the Politico from July 24th of 2025, not so long ago, when they say Pritzker's gerrymandering jab draws fire. And that was Pritzker out there greeting the Democrats fleeing Texas like they're, high school rebels or something, and they want a candy machine to carry Kit Kat bars or something. But it's completely ridiculous. And the corpulent governor's circumference there in Illinois, it should be pointed out. And here's the left-wing Politico just a couple of weeks ago. Governor J.B. Pritzker scolded Texas Republicans and President Trump this week for their brazen attempts to redraw congressional maps in the Lone Star State with the goal of giving GOP candidates even more cushier ride in Washington. Now, no cheating, the subheadline, that the president is encouraging Texas and Texas being willing to do this. I haven't actually seen President Trump encouraging them. I think Texas decided to do this, but never mind that. But then they went to Politico, stealing other people's journalism. Illinois Republicans, right? And it turns out that the State House in Illinois minority leader, the Republican leader, Tony McCombie, he said, it's rich that the governor now claims to support playing by the rules after he enthusiastically signed into law the most gerrymandered map in the nation. Phony and disingenuous is how Rep. Ryan Spain, the deputy minority leader, put it, another Republican in the State House in Illinois. In 2021, when Democrats worried that the House of Representatives in Washington might slip from their grasp, they had to hold on to power. Illinois Democrats approached redistricting with surgical precision, eliminating 2 Republican congressional seats and reinforcing their own fortress in D.C. Illinois, which lost a congressional seat due to population changes, meaning people fleeing the state of Illinois because they're robbing and fleecing everyone and stripping them of their rights because they're so-called Democrats and they're a threat to our democracy. Illinois went from having 13 Democrat seats in Congress and 5 Republican seats in Congress to having 14 Democrat seats and only 3 Republican seats. Wait, they lost a seat, they're losing population, but the Democrats gained 1 seat and the Republicans lost 2 seats in Congress because of Pritzker's gerrymandering. And now he's pounding the table and he's angry that Texas is looking at doing the same thing. How dare they do what I did, which is a pretty standard Democrat protocol, isn't it? Yes, it is. They're amazing hypocrites. They're frauds. They're liars. They're clowns. They're drunk with power. They inherit their money. They inherit their seats after they buy them with granddaddy's billions and billions of dollars. Isn't that amazing? And, Illinois, again, lost a seat. And then the Democrats gained seats in the House of Representatives in Washington because they redistricted in 2021. How about that? Isn't that shocking? But that's okay because they're Democrats. And the New York Times and CNN are not going to call them on it. They're going to have Jake Tapper, a former Democrat Capitol Hill staffer, come out and say, well, things happen. All right, and let's go to the Democrat senator that nobody ever heard of just a few weeks ago, Alex Padilla. Remember when he violently crashed a briefing? Was that Tulsi Gabbard's briefing? Oh, it was Kristi Noem. Kristi Noem's briefing. So many women in Trump's cabinet. So many minority women, ethnic women in Trump's cabinet. If the Democrats weren't such racists and misogynists, they would have had more, but they didn't. Democrat Senator Alex Padilla, who nobody knew until he crashed a press conference and assaulted federal law enforcement, should have been tasered and dragged away in cuffs, sent to Gitmo. Here's Democrat, U.S. Senator Alex Padilla.
If Republicans were confident on their policy agenda, they'd be eager to defend it with the people and to defend it at the ballot box next November, but they know they're in trouble. And so they're trying to rig the system to hold on to power next November.
Yeah, that's what they're doing. Wait a minute. In California, you guys gerrymandered the hell out of California, and you broke out of the bipartisan deal where all redistricting would have to be bipartisan in the future. That was brokered by then Republican and Hollywood movie star actor Arnold Schwarzenegger. Isn't that amazing? You people. Also, because it's what I do, I found a Chicago Tribune story on the same subject, and they too were not happy about what the Democrats were doing. Illinois redistricting defined by lack of transparency, gerrymandering. And they're talking about what the Democrats did, because this is what the Democrats do, and they could care less. Excuse me, they couldn't care less. I always hear about that. They couldn't possibly care less whether they're called on it or not. They just ignore that because they know that the press will move on within a matter of hours, and they won't be the villains of the story, no matter how they're told. Amazing stuff. So Newsom's misguided threat to gerrymander congressional districts, the Orange County Register, wrote the story. And this is from July 28th of 2025. So, again, all these things are just from the last couple of weeks. And the Democrats didn't raise hell about this. The Republicans didn't raise hell about this. The news media didn't raise hell about this. But now Texas wants to follow in the footsteps of California and Illinois, and now where they have Democrats in charge, and now suddenly it's bad. California Governor Gavin Newsom last week threatened that if Texas redraws its congressional districts to boost the Republicans within the House majority, he would consider calling a special election to redraw California's congressional districts, according to the Sacramento Bee. He suggested that the Constitution allows the legislative body some latitude in between censuses to do so, but not in Texas, of course, because, that's your Democrat Party at work there. To the contrary, the California Constitution bars a mid-decade redistricting. Instead, Newsom would have to amend the California Constitution to both authorize a mid-decade redistricting and to transfer the power to redraw the district from the Citizens Redistricting Commission, which is the current body that was agreed to in a bipartisan way in California, that redistricts states and congressional districts back to the legislature. Now, their goal is to be more corrupt, I suppose, and they're good at that. They're good at being more corrupt. So this is going on, and, politics. Some of it's just politics, but a lot of it reveals how hypocritical and corrupt the Democrat Party is on a state level, on a federal level, everywhere you look. They're good. If you're a criminal, that's the thing about them. The big wireless company has been pulling one over on all of us. That's why it's time to switch to consumer cellular. Listen, I switched. I'm getting the same fast, reliable, nationwide, big wireless coverage, same towers, same transmitters, same everything, without the big wireless cost, however. It's not just about saving money on the monthly bill, although that's real good. It's about not being used and abused by the big, giant cell phone companies. Do you even know how much data you use every month? Probably not. Most people, 50 years and older, use less than 8 gigs of data a month. People in their 20s use a lot more. Big Wireless wants to shove you into an unlimited plan because they need you to redistribute your money. So the costs of younger people using lots more data than you do, paid for by you. So if you're not using all that data, then you are the one being used. I'd had enough of that. I went with Consumer Cellular. They set me up with a service and an amazing phone, and I tried it. It was really easy to switch. All you have to do is make a phone call, talk to an actual human being, not a robot, right here in the United States, not in the Philippines, And they're going to be incredibly helpful. It takes about 20 minutes to make the change, save a lot of money, real convenient. And, let's make the call and make the switch today. 1-800-760-0702. 1-800-760-0702. Yeah, so the Democrats, they do it. You call them on it, they lie about it. Then they say, oh, yeah, we're going to do it again. We're going to do it even more. Sincerity is not their bag. You know what I mean? We're at 888-630-9625. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at WashingtonTimes.com/Chris. The New York Times has a story as well. August 1st, 3 days ago, in the paper, 2 days ago, I think, Saturday. Newsom wants to gerrymander California. Schwarzenegger may disagree. As governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger championed the state's nonpartisan redistricting system. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom wants to pause it to help Democrats. So Arnold Schwarzenegger, Republican governor of California, swept into the California governor's office 2003 as a Republican vowing to practice what he called post-partisan politics. So many P's. He was the architect of the state's nonpartisan redistricting system, which puts an independent commission, not Republicans or Democratic lawmakers, in charge of drawing California's political maps once per decade. Now, here we are in the middle of the decade, and he wants to amend the Constitution, call a special election. They're already more than $11 billion in debt this year's budget, but never mind. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, has floated a plan to put Mr. Schwarzenegger's independent system on hold. That means kill it. For the rest of the decade. That means so it'll never come back. In favor of a set of maps that benefits Democrats. That's the New York Times today, no less. Isn't that amazing? Even the New York Times is having to swallow hard while they will turn around and support Governor Hair Gel in no time at all, to be sure. But the Democrats, they're crooked, and they by any means necessary is one of their slogans, isn't it? And in Illinois, they've done it. In California, they're just going to throw out everything there. These people are what's the turn of phrase we use now? A threat to our democracy. They're a threat to our very democracy. They should all move to Brazil, I think. Man, oh man. Our Democrat Party, were it not for double standards, I think they'd have no standards at all. Am I right? No sense of irony, these people. They're yelling at you about doing what you are calling to do yourself or what you just finished doing.
It is classic Russian technique to blame on the other guy what they're planning to do themselves.
Ah, yes, the old Russian technique. They really mean the Soviet technique. That was, of course, Victoria Nuland from the Barack Hussein Obama State Department testifying to Congress. Ah, the old Russian playbook. And they're always accusing you doing what they're doing themselves in real time or what they're planning on doing next. And that takes us to these lunatics that CNN has on, and they're like, hey, wait a minute. Keep in mind also that not so long ago, and then another time so long ago, the Democrats walked out in Texas. The Democrats walked out of the State House in 2003 to break the quorum in the House, and they fled to Oklahoma because the Republicans had a majority, and they said, well, we can obstruct democracy if we just decamp. The news media starts using the word decamp. In 2003, Texas Democrats fled the state, broke a quorum, a dimly lit motel bar somewhere south of Arbuckle Mountains and north of Thackerville. There's a cockfight barn. I'd like to apologize for using that kind of coarse language in your presence. The Texas House's ace of clubs sat slowly stirring juice. Now, they'd fled, and the Democrats, they left the state of Texas because they wanted to make sure that democracy didn't work. And then in 2021, July of 2021, the Democrats in the Texas State House fled the state of Texas to uproot democracy, to corrupt democracy, as they're very fond of doing. And they fled that time, just 4 years ago now, to Washington, D.C., and they became heroes of the news media. And Kamala Harris went and met with them and spoke to them and had a photo op with them because, she was our border czar, and she was our space czar, wasn't she? She was our border czar and our space czar. Isn't that amazing? Texas Democrats 2021. Texas Democrats in the State House left Texas and arrived in Washington, D.C. on Monday in an effort to again block a GOP attempt to pass voting restrictions in the special legislative session. Because it wasn't voting restrictions. It was the Democrats trying to find all kinds of ways to steal votes. You don't have to have an ID. You don't have to show that you're a citizen. It's a border state with Mexico and all those other countries south of Mexico. And the Democrats wanted to make sure that anybody could vote because they figured every illegal alien gang member will definitely vote Democrat. Every child sex trafficker and drug dealer will definitely vote Democrat. That's their thinking. They might be right. They might not be. It's hard to say. Enough Democrats have vowed to remain in Washington, and the special legislative session ends on August 6th to prevent the lower chamber from having enough members present to pass bills. The House gavelled in Tuesday morning for the first time since the Democrats' departure and voted to send law enforcement to track down those who left the state. Now, the Democrats, the majority party, then and now, walked out in the final hours of the regular legislative session in May, causing the House to lose its quorum and killing the voting on legislation because they're anti-democratic. And they've got these idiots on CNN that are in there, and they're like, oh, we're going to leave. We're not going to come back. We're going to stamp our little heels until something happens.
And we should note this is not your first time participating in a quorum break. You were part of one in 2021 when Texas Democrats tried to block a bill your party argued restricted voting access. That lasted 6 weeks, but ultimately failed, and the bill did pass. What makes you think the tactic will work this time?
Well, just as a Texan and a football fan, everybody knows when the other team is first and goal at the one, you don't pull your defense. You play the play. And right now we are in a special session when Texans are hurting because of flood and other issues. And that's not what Republicans want to talk about.
Well, not right now. They can talk about two things in one day and 1 week and 1 month. They can do a lot of different things because they're not severely mentally impaired. That was an elected Texas Democrat, Ann Johnson, talking to another Democrat at CNN, Fanker, named Pamela Brown. Yeah, and then what did we learn? Because you guys fled town. It's not the first time it's happened. What happened last time?
They have brought forth one bill and one bill only, despite the issues facing everyday Texans, and it's Trump's steal of 5 congressional seats. That's all they care about. And so our goal as Texas Democrats is to stand up, ensure that they don't do this steal, and to break this quorum for this session. It is up to Governor Abbott if he wants to call us back. It is his choice. Does he serve Trump or does he serve the people of Texas? And so,
yeah, blah, blah, blah. Well, you're the one who fled the state of Texas, and it's your party that fled the state of Texas. And if you believe so strongly in defending and protecting democracy itself, then maybe you should go back there and debate on the House floor and vote on it and get your allies in the news media to champion your cause for you, as so often happens. All right, let's go to number 8, Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett. She's a Democrat member of the U.S. House of Representatives. She's the one that calls the wheelchair-bound governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, Mr. Hot Wheels, because she's a tramp. I'm going to keep it as polite as possible. A trampy tramp, skanky trampy tramp. And Jasmine Crockett, she's, of course, a big hero on the television with the news media because they're not on the side of democracy or Western civilization. But Jasmine Crockett.
I know that this legislature did ask us as members of Congress to confirm our addresses. I don't know how many of us actually still reside in the districts that we represent. I do not currently reside in my district based upon the plan that has been drawn, which is another red flag, in addition to courts consistently looking at how many people have been moved.
Now, the Democrats, in their stalwart defense of democracy, I was going back and forth with my friend Marty, who's an all-around smart guy. And so wasn't it just like 6 months ago that the Democrats wanted to add 2 states, right? Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. make 2 states, because they figured that would give them 4 more senators in perpetuity, right? And aren't these the people that wanted to pack the Supreme Court? Because while they have enjoyed a majority Democrat nominees to the court on the U.S. Supreme Court for the better part of the last century, when that shifted, they decided, well, let's corruptly, like a third world banana republic hellhole, let's pack the Supreme Court because, ooga booga, we're the third world, right? So let's pack the Supreme Court. Let's add 2 states, wherever the stars go on the flags. And they wanted to get rid of the filibuster in the Senate to change the traditions and the rules of the Senate because they're greedy for power and they're fundamentally corrupt beyond compare. These people are not normal Western politicians. They're leftists. They're not liberals at all. They're leftists. And they're not on our side. Boy, are these people not on our side. Not at all. These people. We've got more to get to. President Trump and the head of the Bureau of Labor Statistics, little hubbub going on there. Jasmine Crockett was, of course, on MSDNC, and it looks like her House seat in Texas might be redrawn, and her home, which I'm sure is expensive and lavish, would be outside of her current district.
This isn't just about the 5 seats in Texas. This is about a power grab. It is about basically setting the tone for what Donald Trump will try to do throughout this country so that he can suppress the voices of black and brown folk just so that he can stay in power.
It's always race, isn't it, with the party of the bullwhip and the plantation, the party of Jim Crow and the KKK. That's the Democrat Party. Illinois, gerrymandered, got rid of Republican seats and added 1 Democrat seat, even though they lost population. California, the guy who wants to be president, Gavin Newsom, is now saying that he's going to call a special election to amend the Constitution of the state of California and completely ignore what had been done in a bipartisan fashion under a Republican governor to make sure that redistricting would always be a bipartisan process. And this is all fine. And nobody on MSNBC is talking about that. They don't talk about that. They're not on the side of democracy. Also, keep in mind that in Illinois, so corrupt, like 4 of the last 6 governors have ended up going to the penitentiary after they left the governor's mansion. And the Democrat speaker in the State House in Springfield, the state capital of Illinois, he was sentenced this summer to 7.5 years in prison because of all the corruption charges that he was found guilty of. And the Democrats say, yeah, we want to be more like Illinois, where everybody goes to prison. You do, 1 term in the State House and then 1 term in the Big House. As is the case with so many governors in Illinois. And the Democrat speaker forever, speaker for life, Mike Madigan, I've been hearing about his corruption for decades, and finally he got caught, and they sent him to prison for 7.5 years. And these are the people that the Democrats say we should be emulating, just by the way. And Jasmine Crockett is actually considered to be a member of the U.S. House of Representatives.
We are in a battle, and we are in a battle, as Joe Biden said when he ran, for the soul of this country. We are fighting for better. And ultimately, once we get the adults in the room to fix everything, as Democrats typically do, then that is when we will hopefully get some guardrails around our democracy and fix the system once and for all.
I think she was channeling Don Cornelius and Soul Train there. She said, fight for the soul of the country. And whenever I hear stuff like that, I always think about that because it's such a great song. You know, Soul Train. Hey, wait a minute. It stopped playing. There it was, and then it wasn't. People all over the world, get on the Soul Train. It's for the soul of the nation. And again, you got to keep in mind that just minutes ago, they were talking about adding 2 states to our 50-state lineup because they think that they would have 4 more Senate seats forever and some more House seats. They're power-crazed, crazy people. They want to pack the Supreme Court. They still want to pack the Supreme Court, which is just the stuff of Burkina Faso and third world countries that you don't even think about. They wanted to do away with the filibuster in the Senate in order to steal power because that's what the Democrats do. That's who the Democrats are. Look, there's a lot more to get to today. In addition to all this, the gerrymandering and all that good stuff. Now, the Democrats, they're very, very upset that a woman who's an actress, and they used to love her. She was in that, Handmaid's Tale thing that they like so much, and some cable shows that I had never heard of. But Sydney Sweeney, not Sweety, but Sweeny, revealed to be a registered Republican. MAGA influencers celebrate. Wait a minute. This is the young woman in the American Eagle jeans ad that had them so upset. You remember the American Eagle jeans ad, right?
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeny has very genes.
Her genes are great, and now this is, and then the Democrats go crazy, and it's fascism and it's Nazism. You know, the Socialist Workers' Party of Adolf Hitler, eugenics, and that means, you know, the head of eugenics, and they brings us back to 1900 through 1940, where Margaret Sanger, who the founder of Planned Parenthood and a lifelong Democrat, was a champion of eugenics, which was racist and racially segregationist, like the Democrat Party. And the Margaret Sanger Award has gone only to Democrats that I can find, from Lyndon Baines Johnson to Jane Fonda, Hanoi Jane Fonda, and Hillary Diane Rodham Clinton have all gotten the Margaret Sanger Award. And they're calling everybody Nazis, right? Now, I've got more on this because turns out President Trump, and I've got more on Sydney Sweeney. President Trump was asked about Sydney Sweeney being a registered Republican, and some funny things happened. The vice president came out and talked about it, J.D. Vance, and President Trump was asked about it. And then there's a woman, also Megyn Kelly, talked about it, and she was a pistol. We had to bleep her a lot. We had to do a lot of bleeping because Megyn Kelly got riled up about this, and I've got that coming up as well. And also a woman, a very lovely, very attractive woman named Tiffany Fong. Tiffany Fong has some comments about all this, too. I've got that coming up. You know, the all-new third-generation Eden Pure Thunderstorm air purifier has finally arrived, and it builds on the incredible success of the first 2 generations, which earned thousands of 5-star reviews on Al Gore's amazing internet. Peace be upon him. This new Eden Pure Thunderstorm uses 2 technologies that studies have demonstrated help to kill up to 99.9% of bacteria and viruses floating in the air in your home, in your office, removes dust, pet stuff, smoke, and a whole lot more from the air that you breathe, and helps get rid of any odor. Odors, I'm telling you, with no filters to have to replace over and over again. Very annoying. The Thunderstorm will help get rid of any stinky stuff, guaranteed. Odors from trash cans, cigarette smoke, liberals, musty basements, No match for the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. Disappear in a matter of seconds. And right now, you can save $200 American on an Eden Pure Thunderstorm 3-pack for whole home protection because you and I hang out together. Put one in your basement, your bedroom, your teenager's room, the kitchen, any place you like to breathe clean, fresh air. We've got several of them at home ourselves. Go to EdenPureDeals.com. Use the discount code CHRIS3, CHRIS and the number 3, that's me, to save $200 American on 3 thunderstorms. That's EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is CHRIS3. He ain't heavy. Amazing. So I've got the Sydney Sweeny update. The genes that made the Democrats lose what's left of their minds. All right. Now let's take a telephone call, Michael. I haven't gone to the phones in a long time. Let's go to Louie, calling from the great state of Arkansas. Louie, you are on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey. Hi, Chris. Good morning.
Hey, Louie.
Thanks, sir.
You betcha.
Hey, I'm glad that you're back. You're on vacation. We missed you a lot. And
thank you.
I was on vacation too, celebrating my anniversary.
Congratulations.
Thank you, sir. I called about the redistricting comments, and I was watching a YouTube last night, and the lady that took over Marco Rubio's seat was talking to Jasmine Crockett, and she brought up some great comment about it, and she said that in her state, the whites voted in a white senator, and the blacks voted in a black senator. And she turned everything on her, and she's like, everybody in your state has voted for Trump, and now you're trying to take their rights away. Of you're trying to not to let them do gerrymandering. So I think it's pretty funny that Jasmine Crockett was just sitting there just listening and couldn't disagree with anything.
Well, Jasmine Crockett is smart enough to be problematic, and that's about it, like so many Democrats, I've got to say. But Ashley Moody, the Republican Senator S., who took the place of J.D. Vance when J.D. Vance left to become vice president, right? And our politics are a very, very strange place these days. There's no doubt about it. But the Democrats are a big problem. And honestly, they keep screaming at us that we're a threat to democracy, which, going back to the Russian playbook, means that they are.